Nearly 1 in 10 Americans takes a stomach acid pill. That number comes from National Health Survey data reviewed in U.S. Pharmacist, and it has nearly doubled over the past 20 years. If you're one of them, if there's a little purple, orange, or white pill you swallow most mornings without even thinking about it, then this next part is for you. Because there's a simple rule about that pill that most people have never once been told. Maybe you started it for heartburn years ago. Maybe a doctor handed it to you during a stressful hospital stay. Maybe you just buy it off the shelf, and somewhere along the way, it quietly became part of your daily routine, like brushing your teeth. You never questioned it. Why would you? Here's why it matters. Omeprazole and the whole family of drugs it belongs to is genuinely useful medicine, but it was never designed to be taken forever, on autopilot, with no one ever checking whether you still need it. And when a medicine gets taken that way for years, small trade-offs can quietly add up in the background, including, in some people, in the kidneys. Here's something most people get wrong about this, and it matters. Most folks believe these pills are so gentle, so ordinary, that there's simply nothing to think about. That belief is exactly what we need to look at today, because the truth is more useful and a lot more reassuring than the fear you might have seen online. Before we go further, if this channel helps you understand your own body a little better, tap subscribe and give this video a like. It genuinely helps me reach more people your age who need clear answers. Stay with me. In the next few minutes, I'll explain what's really happening inside your body, and one simple review you can do tonight at your own kitchen table. Let's name the belief directly. The common idea is this: omeprazole is basically harmless, so if it helps, I should just keep taking it forever. And honestly, it's easy to see why people believe that. You can buy it without a prescription. The box looks friendly. It works fast, it's cheap, and it quiets that burning feeling almost like magic. Nobody sits you down to explain it. So the natural assumption is no prescription, no problem, take it as long as I like. And there's another reason the belief sticks. When something works, we stop asking questions about it. That burning in your chest was miserable. The pill made it vanish, and gratitude quietly turns into habit. The pill earns your trust on day one and never has to earn it again. That's human nature, not a mistake, but it's exactly how a short-term fix becomes a 10-year fixture with no one watching. Here's what the research actually shows. These drugs are safe and effective for what they were made to do, and for the right person, they can even be life-changing. But safe when used correctly is not the same as safe to take indefinitely without a second look. An evidence-based review published in the journal Medicina in 2025 found that somewhere between a quarter and two-thirds of all these prescriptions have no clear ongoing reason behind them. Read that again. A huge share of long-term users may not actually need the daily dose anymore. They're simply still taking it because nobody ever pressed pause. That's not a scandal. That's just how busy medicine works. Here's the part most people never get explained clearly. Omeprazole belongs to a group called proton pump inhibitors. That means drugs that switch off the tiny acid pumps in your stomach lining. Think of your stomach wall like a kitchen fitted with thousands of little taps, each one dripping acid to help you digest food. Omeprazole walks in and turns most of those taps down to a trickle. That's brilliant when too much acid is burning a raw spot in your food pipe. But turning the taps down doesn't fix why they were running hard in the first place. It manages the symptom, it quiets the alarm, and here's the quiet catch. When you keep the acid switched off for months and years, your body adapts around it. The very researchers who study this list one specific reason these pills get overused: the widespread perception that they are completely harmless. That perception is the myth. Not because the drug is secretly dangerous, it isn't, but because harmless makes people stop paying attention. And medicine you stop paying attention to is medicine no one ever reviews. So if you've been taking yours for a year, 2 years, 10 years, with no one ever asking, do you still need this? You're not doing anything wrong. You've just fallen into the most common pattern there is. Let's look at exactly what that means for your body and for your kidneys in particular. To understand the kidney connection, you first need to see what these little pumps actually do and what happens downstream when they stay switched off. Your stomach makes acid on purpose. That acid does two big jobs. It breaks your food down into pieces small enough to absorb, and it acts like a security guard, killing off many of the bugs you swallow before they ever reach your gut. Omeprazole blocks the final step of acid production, a microscopic pump called the hydrogen potassium ATPase sitting on the cells that line your stomach. Block that pump, and acid output drops sharply. For a burning, injured food pipe, that relief is real and it's welcome. But your body notices the change, and two knock-on effects are where the kidney story begins. The first is about minerals. Your stomach acid helps you pull certain nutrients out of your food, especially magnesium, and also vitamin B12 and some calcium. Magnesium, that means a mineral. Your muscles, nerves, and blood vessels depend on to work smoothly. Picture magnesium as the spark plug your body uses to fire cleanly. When acid stays suppressed for a long time, some people slowly absorb less magnesium from their meals. This link was first reported back in 2006, and many case reports have confirmed it since, according to a review in the journal Kidney International. Low magnesium, in turn, is tied to inflammation and to stress on the delicate lining of your blood vessels, including the tiny vessels feeding your kidneys. Low magnesium rarely announces itself. It can whisper. Magnesium isn't the only mineral affected. That same stomach acid helps you unlock vitamin B12 from the protein in your food. Think of the acid as a key that pops B12 loose so your gut can grab it. Turn the acid down for years, and some people slowly slip toward a B12 shortfall, which can show up as tiredness, tingling in the hands and feet, or a foggy memory. And remember that second job acid does the security guard, killing bugs you swallow before they reach your gut. With the guard half asleep, certain infections become a little more likely, including a stubborn gut infection called C. difficile. None of this is a reason to be frightened of your pill. It's a reason to understand that acid was doing quiet, useful work, and that switching it off for a decade is not a free lunch. The second effect on the kidney side is more direct, and it has a name worth knowing: acute interstitial nephritis. That means inflammation in the packing tissue of your kidney. Here's a metaphor that makes it clear. Picture your kidney as a dense sponge built from millions of tiny filters, with soft packing material cushioning the space between them. In acute interstitial nephritis, that packing material becomes irritated and swollen like a sponge that's soaked up too much water and gone puffy. The filters get crowded and can't do their job as well. Because so many millions of people take these pills, they've become one of the most common medication causes of this particular kidney inflammation, according to that same Kidney International review. Stay with me, this next part connects everything. Here's what makes it sneaky. This kind of kidney irritation often causes few obvious symptoms early on. There's no sharp pain, no flashing sign. It can build quietly in the background, which is exactly why doctors sometimes catch it late through a routine blood test rather than a complaint. And researchers have found something else. In some people, kidney function can slowly decline even without an obvious sudden injury first, suggesting the wear can accumulate gradually over years of use. Scientists writing in the peer-reviewed literature are careful to say this plainly. The link between these drugs and long-term kidney disease is a recent, still developing area of study, and it is not fully understood. This is the honest heart of it. This is why kidney numbers can drift in long-term users often, not because of age alone, but because of a correctable factor. A medicine that quietly stayed switched on year after year with no one reviewing it. Now let's be fair and precise, because the internet is not. A large 2024 analysis in the journal Biomedicines, pooling data from more than 700,000 people, found that using these drugs was associated with about a 26% higher relative risk of developing chronic kidney disease compared with non-users. 26% sounds alarming, but relative risk is a percentage of a baseline that, for most individuals, is small to begin with. And an association is not proof that the drug caused it. People on long-term acid pills also tend to be older and to have other health conditions, and those things affect kidneys too. The kidney inflammation itself, when studied directly in New Zealand across 500,000 users, showed up at a rate of roughly 12 cases per 100,000 person-years real, but genuinely uncommon. So no, your kidneys are not cracking. That's not what the science says. What the science says is gentler and more useful. For a small number of long-term users, this medicine may add a modest, mostly silent strain, and the sensible response is not panic, it's a periodic check. And here's the practical thread running through all of it. The concern grows with how long you take it and how high the dose is not, with a single week of use for a flare. A short course to heal an injured food pipe is a very different thing from a full-strength dose swallowed every morning for 15 years out of habit. The dial is duration and dose. That's precisely why guidelines keep circling back to the same modest, doable idea. Use the smallest amount that keeps you well, for the shortest time you truly need it, and check in on that regularly. Not zero, just reviewed. Quick question for you. How old are you? Drop it in the comments. It genuinely helps me know which age groups to focus on in future videos. One more honest note on age. Older kidneys naturally filter a little more slowly than young ones. That's normal aging, not damage. But it also means an older kidney has less spare capacity to absorb an extra, avoidable strain. That's not a reason to fear the pill. It's simply a reason to make sure you still need it. Let me walk you through a typical example of how this shows up based on the kind of pattern I see described again and again in research and clinical reports. This is a composite, an illustration to make the science real. It is not one specific patient. Picture someone like Margaret, 61, the kind of person who reads every label and still can't figure out why her body keeps feeling a little off. Years ago, she had a rough patch of heartburn during a stressful winter. Her doctor started her on a daily acid pill. It worked beautifully. The burning stopped. And that was that. Here's the common misstep. When the heartburn faded, nobody ever revisited the prescription, and neither did she. Why fix what isn't broken? So the pill stayed in her morning pill box, right next to her vitamins, for the better part of a decade. She assumed that if she still felt fine on it, she must still need it. That single assumption is the crux of this whole story. Over the years, small things crept in. A bit more fatigue than she could explain. Occasional muscle cramps in her calves at night that she blamed on getting older. The odd flutter in her chest. Nothing dramatic. Nothing she'd bother a doctor with. Just a body that felt like it was running slightly rough, the way an engine does when one spark plug isn't firing cleanly. Here's the actual mechanism at work, connecting back to what we covered. After years of suppressed stomach acid, her body may have been absorbing a little less magnesium from her food, that spark plug mineral which can quietly show up as cramps, tiredness, and palpitations. And because no one had ever ordered a simple blood test to check her magnesium, her B12, or her kidney filtering rate, none of it was on anyone's radar. Not because it was hidden, because it was never reviewed. Now, here's where it gets genuinely interesting. In the kind of approach that deprescribing studies actually test, a doctor confirms whether the drug is still needed, and if not, steps it down carefully with a plan for any rebound heartburn. The results are encouraging. Across real-world deprescribing trials and clinic programs, when people stepped down under guidance, a large share stayed comfortably off the daily pill at the 12-month mark, and only a minority needed to restart it, based on figures reported in the deprescribing research and summarized in Canadian clinical guidance. For someone like Margaret, that could mean her doctor checks a few blood levels, confirms the heartburn is long resolved, and works out a gentle plan while keeping the pill available for the occasional flare. And in the pattern research describes, when a quietly low magnesium level is spotted and corrected, the vague background symptoms, the cramps, the odd flutter, the tiredness she'd chalked up to age often ease over the following weeks. Not a miracle. Just an engine running clean again, because someone finally checked under the hood. Notice what this example is not. It's not throw the pill away. For plenty of people, the honest answer to the yearly review is, yes, you still need this, and that's a good outcome too. The point was never to quit. The point was to check. This pattern shows up often, which is exactly why I wanted to cover it today. So here's the practical part. I call it the yearly review, because that phrase is quite literally the rule the guidelines recommend and almost nobody hears about. Let me start with the self-test because it's simple, it's safe, and you can do it tonight. This isn't a medical test, it's a 5-minute inventory at your own kitchen table. Set aside about 10 quiet minutes. Get your pill bottle and any pharmacy records or repeat prescription slips you can find. Then answer 3 plain questions, out loud or on paper. First, how long have I been taking this? Look at the date you started if you can find it. Second, what was the original reason and is that reason still true today? Third, has anyone ever tried to reduce or reassess it since I started? Here's how to read your result. If you can clearly name a current, ongoing reason, something like a healing food pipe injury, a diagnosed condition your doctor is managing, or protection for your stomach because of another medication, that's a reassuring result, and you likely have a good reason to continue. But if you've been taking it for more than a year, you can't quite remember why anymore, and no one has ever revisited it, that's not an emergency, but it is a clear sign to book a conversation. Write down what you find. You'll want to bring it to your next appointment. I want to walk you through something carefully now, the reasoning behind the rule itself. Choosing Wisely Canada and the Canadian Association of Gastroenterology both recommend that long-term acid pill therapy for reflux-type symptoms should not simply roll on year after year without at least one attempt to reduce or reassess it in most patients. An evidence-based deprescribing guideline published in Canadian Family Physician lays out the same principle. Step down to the lowest effective dose, or stop whenever the original reason has passed. Once a year, that's the whole rule. The mechanism here is simple. A yearly check is the moment where still needed and no longer needed gets sorted out, before another silent decade slips by. Now the second part, supporting the machinery your pill is standing in for. Remember, acid pills manage reflux, they don't repair what drives it. So there are habits worth reducing. The biggest levers, according to standard reflux guidance from major gastroenterology bodies, are large late-night meals, heavy alcohol, excess coffee and fizzy drinks, and lying down too soon after eating. The mechanism is mechanical and chemical at once. Big or boozy late meals relax the valve at the top of your stomach and give acid more to push upward, right when you're about to lie flat. Picture that valve like a balloon knot that loosens under pressure. Eat lighter and earlier, and you take pressure off the whole system, which, for some people, is part of what makes stepping down possible in the first place. One more mechanical trick with real evidence behind it: raising the head of your bed by a few inches, using sturdy blocks under the bed frame or a wedge, lets gravity keep acid down while you sleep, with no medication at all. Here's something I wish more people knew sooner: the other side of the ledger, what to add. Because acid suppression can quietly lower magnesium absorption over time, it's reasonable and safe to lean into magnesium-rich whole foods. Leafy greens, nuts, seeds, beans, and whole grains. Think of it as keeping your spark plugs well supplied. I'll be honest about the limits here because that's the deal on this channel. For someone with genuinely low magnesium caused by long-term acid suppression, food alone may not fully correct it. That's a conversation and a blood test for your doctor, not a smoothie. But a magnesium-friendly, plant-forward plate is good for your gut, your blood vessels, and your kidneys regardless, so there's no downside to starting there. Here's the balanced truth about the medication itself, stated fairly. Omeprazole and its cousins are genuinely excellent at what they're built for: healing an inflamed food pipe, treating ulcers, clearing certain stomach infections alongside antibiotics, and protecting the stomachs of people on long-term anti-inflammatory or blood-thinning drugs who'd otherwise risk a dangerous bleed. For conditions like a precancerous food pipe change called Barrett's esophagus or severe erosive damage, staying on the pill is often exactly the right call, and stopping could be harmful. What the pill does not do is fix the underlying reflux, restore your minerals, or announce when you no longer need it. That last job is yours and your doctor's once a year, and this next line matters more than any other in this video. If you're on any medication for this, talk to your doctor before changing anything this is meant to add to your care, not replace it. Do not stop this pill on your own, and never quit it abruptly, because suddenly switching the acid taps back to full can cause a rebound surge of heartburn that feels worse than where you started. This is why the plan is always a guided step down, not a cold turkey stop. This next part is the one people ask me about most, so let me say it plainly. The goal is a conversation, not a dramatic exit. So what does a guided step down actually look like? So you're not walking in blind? Your doctor has a few gentle gears to work with. Sometimes it's lowering the dose first. Sometimes it's moving to an on-demand approach, where you take the pill only on the days you actually feel symptoms, rather than every single morning. Sometimes it's switching to a milder acid reducer, called an H2 blocker, as a stepping stone while your stomach recalibrates. And a temporary rebound of heartburn during the change is common. And expected it doesn't mean you failed or that you needed the pill forever. It means your stomach is adjusting, and it usually settles. Knowing that in advance is half the battle, because the surprise is what sends people rushing back to a daily pill they may not need. A quick word on those blood tests so you know what you're asking for and why. Magnesium and B12 are simple, cheap draws that show whether the long-term acid suppression has quietly nudged your levels down. Kidney function is usually checked with a test called eGFR that means an estimate of how well your kidneys are filtering, often reported alongside a value called creatinine. You don't need to interpret the numbers yourself. You just need them on the page, so you and your doctor are looking at real data instead of guessing. That's the whole point of the review, replacing "I feel fine, so I must be fine" with something you can actually see. So here's what I'd suggest trying. Starting today, do the kitchen table review tonight. It costs you nothing. Note your 3 answers. Add a couple of magnesium-rich foods to this week's meals and shift dinner a little earlier. Then, at your next visit, bring your notes and ask your doctor 2 questions. Do I still need this? And can we check my magnesium, B12, and kidney function? That's it. Calm, simple, and entirely in your control. Let me give you the 3 things to take away from today. First, these acid pills are good medicine for the right reason, but they were never meant to run for years on autopilot with no one checking. Second, for a small number of long-term users, that silent, unreviewed use may add a modest strain on minerals, and in some cases on the kidneys, and it's usually quiet, which is exactly why it gets missed. Third, the fix isn't fear or quitting cold. It's a simple yearly review with your doctor to confirm you still need it. I make these videos because most people never get this explained in a 10-minute appointment, not because anyone is hiding it from you on purpose. Your doctor is working against the clock. This channel is where we take the time they don't have. This is educational information, not a substitute for medical advice. If anything here resonated, bring it up with your doctor before making any change. If you know someone who's been quietly taking a daily acid pill for years and has never once had it reviewed, send them this video. It might be the nudge that gets them one good, honest conversation with their doctor. And if this helped you understand your own body a little better, tap subscribe so the next one finds you. Like tells the algorithm to show this to more people who need it. I'll see you in the next one.